Okay. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. My name is Amanda Neves. I am the clinical director here at A&T, Amanda Neves Therapy. And I'm really excited to offer a really wonderful webinar in collab with Rachel Shen, who is our MSW intern this over these past 2 semesters. It's called Navigating the Quarter Life Crisis, Taking Care of Yourself in Your Odyssey Years. Um, really important topic these days for anyone, really anyone, but specifically folks in their early 30s and their 20s, just navigating transitions and life challenges that are often common in that life stage. I'm really excited to have her here. Take it away, Rachel.
Okay, hi everyone, and thank you, Amanda, for the welcoming, and thank you everyone who's being able to make it here today after a long day, and especially on a Wednesday in the middle of the week. So really appreciate your presence here, and I also want to appreciate who's joining asynchronously, maybe later from the recording. I really hope that we will have a great time together for the rest of the hour. So moving on, before we get into our topic today, I first wanted to acknowledge this land on which this meeting takes place. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and I appreciate the opportunity to work on this land. So here's your host today. So this is me. My name is Rachel, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a Master of Social Work student at the University of Toronto and currently an intern therapist working with Amanda's practice for my practicum placement. And in my work, I support adults navigating depression, anxiety, life transitions, relationships, and also identity-related challenges. So this is our team, a brief introduction. We are a group of passionate therapists who help individuals and couples navigate mental health challenges and strengthen relationships with a trauma-informed, attachment-based, and culturally sensitive lens of practice. We offer in-person therapy in our Toronto and Vaughan location, and also remote therapy in our through virtual platform and phone call. We also produces mental health resources on our social media, Instagram, and you can also find some resources on our website. And our focus is to support in easing anxiety and stress, healing from trauma and significant attachment wounds, and improving emotional regulation and nervous system integration through an integrative, relational, and psychodynamic approach. So here's a preview of our agenda today. We will start with a brief check-in activity, and then we'll move on to talk about the quarter life crisis. What is it? What is its impact on our well-being, and what's behind quarter life crisis? So essentially, what are the factors that can really influence your experience around your quarter life? So early 20s or mid 20s to early 30s. And this could be a turbulent stage of life for some of us. So we'll get to see how to take care, some way to take care of yourself in this stage of life. And then we'll also get to spend some time to do a reflection exercise. So maybe get yourself ready with pen and paper if you haven't already yet, maybe a note app on your device, and then moving on to checkout. And as Amanda mentioned, we do have a Q&A section, so we will leave some time for questions to finish up the webinar. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll take a look at them together at the very end of the session. And the questions will not be recorded, just a heads up. Yes. Okay, so before we dive into all the concepts, I actually want to start with something a bit more real and maybe relatable to our experience to start the check-in. I will play a short clip and just notice while watching what's your reaction to this video clip? And see. What's it like for you? Are we okay to see the video? Is it on the? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Quarter life crisis. Another year of not knowing my purpose in life. Yeah. Now I get to treat my 20s like it's a competition. Everyone has it all figured out, and I can't even decide what to eat. With quarter life crisis, you get to ask yourself existential questions like: should I pursue my dream or settle down? What is belonging, and is that something I've ever felt? Am I living the life I want to live, or just doing what people expect me to do? What's the point of life if society expects so much and offers so little? Every day, Katie. Every day. Scandalo. So I actually wrote a book about my 20s, and I'd love to just read a little bit for you guys. All right. You can get all of this for $3.99. So what are you waiting for? Feel like you're living life on autopilot and get yourself a quarter life crisis today.
All right. That was the video. That was the clip, and very funny to watch. I enjoyed it so much every time I played it while prepping the webinar. And also, at the same time, I sometimes do catch myself thinking while I was watching. So sometimes I feel like this is a little too real. And how come this person be able to capture people's life and maybe what I've been thinking? But so I definitely have had thoughts like that too. So I'm really curious of while you were watching what's coming up for you. Let's just take a moment to look at what's there in your mind right now. You can keep it to yourself, or if you're open to, you can also jot them down on your notepad. And maybe feel free to close your eyes if it helps you focus. Just notice what's there. Notice any thoughts that has popped up, or is it still something coming up? Maybe it could be a picture or even an experience of yours that it reminds you of. Or it could be nothing, and that's okay too. There is no right or wrong here. Now let's just stay with these threads of thoughts and just watch them come and go. And as you're noticing what's coming up in your mind, let's slowly, gently expand that awareness a little bit further to what's coming up in your body right now. You can get yourself a comfortable seated position if you haven't already. And close your eyes if you like to. You can just pay attention to your heart rate. Just give it a chance for us to listen to our heartbeat. Maybe you could also place your hands on the chest if that helps you to feel a little bit better. Just notice that. Notice the pace of our heartbeat. And with the chest rises and falls, with your hands, now gently bring your attention to your breathing pace, to your breath. Just observe. How is the pace of your breathing, of your breath right now? Is it very fast? Is it slow or it feels natural? And let's take a deep breath in together and slowly exhale through your mouth. Just notice how the air flow out of your mouth. Now let's move our attention to our body parts, really just to get a sense of their existence while you breathe naturally. If you notice any tension or tightness around the body, release it as you breathe out. While we're doing this, if your mind wanders, that's okay, just gently bring it back. Now we can start from our head, moving down to your forehead, your cheeks, your neck, shoulders. Now notice your spine. It's been supporting us for the entire day. Notice your arms, the elbows, your wrist, palms and fingers. Now to your abdomen. Maybe to the bottom part of your body now. Your thighs, knees, your calves. Now to the ankle and the bottom of your feet. Again, if you feel any tension or tightness while doing this, release it while you breathe out. Now really sense the points of contact. Notice any feelings of warmth, coolness, the texture of your clothing. Do you feel the floor is supporting your feet? Now just stay with anything that comes out in your body right now or another moment. Now slowly, when you're ready, you can gently bring your awareness back to your environment again. Really feel what's surrounding you, the room you're in. You can open your eyes and take a moment to notice, what is that like? To notice the presence of your body. You can also feel free to drop in the chat anything you're feeling, if you'd like to share, and then sit with it for a while, feel comfortable with it. Okay. So this check-in is really a chance to tune into our mind and body, really to tune inward and get in touch with what's happening in our head, in our mind, and in the body, which we often don't do when we're out and about. Because it is important for us to be attentive of what's happening outside to know what to do next. But it's actually just as important to notice what's happening inside because how we're thinking and feeling in the moment can actually shape the actions we take next. And sometimes without us even realizing it. So this check-in is really for us to practice tuning in a word and notice what your mind and body are responding, maybe responding to the webinar, to our topic today. And I hope this exercise also help you settle in a bit for our rest of our hour together. All right, so now let's get into what we mean by quarter life crisis. So, the quarter life crisis, this term has gained a lot of popularity in recent years on social media. We often see the quarter life crisis portrayed in certain ways. For example, people in their 20s starting picking up running, traveling more, documenting their wellness routines, getting their daily caffeine intake. And while these can definitely be part of the picture, they don't really capture what's happening underneath. And so let's take a step beyond the surface and look at what a quarter life crisis actually means. Quarter life crisis is a term used to describe a period of uncertainty and anxiety that some individuals experience. It typically occurs in a person's mid-20s to early 30s. It is really a way to describe the emotional and psychological struggles that some young adults may face during this transitional period. And interestingly, a cultural commentator, David Brooks, used the Odyssey years as a metaphor to describe this decade of wandering between adolescence and adulthood. So, why the Odyssey years? This idea actually comes from the ancient Greek mythology, the Odyssey. It depicts the story of a Greek hero, Odysseus. After the Trojan War, he spends 10 years trying to find his way back home. And along the journey, he faces all kinds of challenges, uncertainty, obstacles, and even forces outside of his control, including even the fury of the gods. And at its core, the Odyssey is really a story about a long and difficult journey, one that filled with trials, uncertainty, and transformation. And in mythology and Jungian psychology, myths like this are considered archetypal stories. These are stories that capture recurring patterns of human experience. So the idea of the long journey of searching, struggle, and even eventual growth appears across many cultures and eras. So while it can feel very isolating today, the search for direction and meaning is actually a very old human experience. And we are also seeing it show up very clearly in young adults today. A 2025 study on quarter life crisis episodes in emerging adulthood studied over 2,000 people who aged 18 to 29 from across 8 countries. And 40 to 77% of the young adults, they self-reported that they were experiencing a crisis. And by crisis, the researchers define it as the young adults recognize being in a time of heightened stress, difficulties, and instability, and being at a turning point in their life. And their duration of these difficulties was often between 1 or 2 years. And their analysis shows that while prevalence of suffering from a crisis as a young adult varies globally, the underlying causes are strikingly similar, actually. And those factors commonly are about career transitions, financial difficulties, academic stress, and difficulties with family conflict. So, what's really happening underneath this experience is that this stage of life often involves navigating some really significant transitions, moving from adolescence to adulthood, for example, completing education, entering the workforce, and starting to figure out your directions and goals. And this transition is also a shift from a more structured or familiar environment into one that feels a lot more uncertain and grounded in reality, which can naturally bring up a lot of worries and concerns about the future. And also at the same time, there can be a lot of pressure and expectations from the society and from the family people perceive around things like career, financial stability, and also relationships. And alongside of all that, there's often a lot of identity exploration too, trying to figure out who you are, what really matters to you, and what kind of life you want to build. So when all of these things are happening all at once, it makes so much sense that this period can feel very overwhelming or destabilizing at times even. So for many people, it can look like feeling lost or directionless, pressure to succeed, pressure in career, desire for change, and the uncertainty can really induce growing feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. For example, questioning relationships, questioning decisions you made, questioning yourself or your identity and even your principles. And it can also come with a lot of internal tension, like wanting change, but not quite knowing what the change should be. And that could lead to a lot of intense introspection. And in this shape of emotions, it really can feel like anxiousness, anger at the situation, fear or feeling terrified, feeling powerless, aimless, lacking in any kind of life objectives, or even grief and disillusionment about unmet life expectations, and etc. And of course, this doesn't look the same for everyone. The timing, intensity, and experience can vary a lot from person to person. There's no right way to experience a quarter life crisis. But at the same time, this is not just a volatile experience we go through and can start to take toll on our well-being when things starting to build up. Quarter life crisis, the experience of it commonly leads to stress, despair, and other mental health challenges. Changes in social and living environment can lead to social isolation or disconnection. It can lead to extreme mood swings, being incredibly joyful or melancholy, or going from feeling okay to suddenly feeling really low or overwhelmed. And from studies and mental health stats, we really see the increased risk of developing mental health disorder in this age range. According to CMHA, the Public Health Agency of Canada reported that young adults who age 18 to 34 are more likely to experience burnout and report lower self-rated mental health in the workplace compared to older adults. And mental health challenges commonly emerged by the age of 25, and 15 to 20% of young Canadians aged by 15 to 30 years old experience suicidal thoughts. So the stage of life can be really taxing for those who's going through it, and it can be very demanding. The experience can be really demanding. So now let's take a look at what's behind the experiences. What are the factors that are shaping our experience of a quarter life crisis? The literature review, looking across multiple studies, actually concluded that these factors tend to fall into two broad categories. Can be internal or external. Internal factors can look like one's commitment to purpose, anxiety and emotional distress, and maybe how much you'd be able to tolerate the amount of distress, identity development, self-confidence and self-efficacy, religiosity and spirituality. This include aspects of life involving religion and faith, for example, how much guidance and support they can receive through religious practice, reflection and meaning making, so the ability to reflect on the choices and experiences and wondering whether they still feel right for you and asking yourself, why do I feel this way? External factors can be relationships and social support, your age, your developmental stage, gender experiences, the ethnicity and socio-cultural context, both in terms of identity and the different expectations, pressures people may perceive. Of course, financial stress, lifestyle factors, your health condition, your everyday ritual, wellness, and also these factors may also intertwine with each other. And again, the experience of quarter-life crisis can look very different for everyone. Okay, so now we have had a closer look of what could influence these experiences, and it gives a lot of entry points for what are fixed. But we all have a limited amount of time and energy, actually, and some of these factors from a broader societal level are not fully within our control. For example, things like shifts in the job market, including the impact of AI and recent change in government funding, academic financial support, the OSEP cut, or the global political and economic climate. Those are all things that can directly shape our experience, but not really something we can individually take control of. So then the question then becomes, where can we focus our attention in a way that actually supports us? And one way to approach this is to take a moment to pause, reconnect with our values, and focus on what truly matters to us. And this is where acceptance and commitment therapy and with its principle can be really helpful. So what is ACT? What is acceptance and commitment therapy? ACT is a type of psychotherapy that helps you move beyond unpleasant thoughts and feelings in a meaningful way by accepting that your thoughts and emotions are an appropriate response to certain situations and committing to making changes in your life that match with your values. Accepting can look like noticing your reaction without judgment, saying and thinking that, whoa, my heart's racing because of this. This is happening, and I have some reactions to it. I'm feeling a bit edgy right now. And also, it actually makes so much sense that I feel this way given all the things that I've been through, the changes, the uncertainty that I'm facing. And committing will involve questions maybe asking yourself, what is the most important thing to me in this next hour, next day, next week, maybe month or year? And what's maybe the tiny next step that I can take to move towards what's important to me right now? So really acknowledge that acknowledge your emotion, and then take a second to think of what's the most important thing to you at this moment. So to take care of yourself when under a crisis or any moment of distress is not really about having everything figured out, but to learn how to respond to what's here in the present in a way that aligns with what matters to you. Okay, so rather than us just talking about this, I want to invite those of you who are open to it, let's take a few moments to try this out for yourself. This is a reflection exercise I prepared for you. We'll go through 4 value-based reflection prompts together. And yeah, go grab yourself a pen and paper or a notepad if you haven't already. Just a chance for you to pause, check in, and reconnect with what matters to you right now. We'll take 2 to 3 minutes for each one, and I'll keep track of the time and gently guide us from one to the next. And before we begin, I'll invite us to take another deep breath before we move into the reflection. And also wanted to say, this is just an invitation. You're welcome to take this time in whatever way feels right for you or helpful for you. There is definitely no pressure to write a lot or come up with fully thought out answers. Even a few words could be okay if you're feeling it. And okay, and we'll also be sharing the slides after the webinar, so you can always come back to these questions and spend more time with them if you like to. Okay, when you're ready, we'll move on to the first prompt. So the first one is, which part or parts of your life is most important to you right now, and why? It can be school, finance, anything that you find important to you right now. And if you have time for a few, you can also rank them in the order that makes sense to you, and also think about why you rank them that way. But definitely no pressure if there is not enough time for it. And as you reflect, just write down whatever comes to mind. You can begin whenever you're ready. I'm going to play out some music as you reflect.
Just to pause. Rachel, you're muted.
Okay, so let's slowly wrap up this one. If you're feeling okay, let's finish up our last thought and we'll move on to the next prompt together. All right. So the second prompt is think about a part of your life that matter most to you or you value most. Where would you like things to be in the near future? Next week, next month, 3 months, or 6 months? This could be something that you like to feel more of, something you like to shift or feel different, or something you like to start or continue. Try to keep it something that feels possible right now, even if it's small. Another 3 minutes for this question. Start whenever you're ready. Okay, we'll start to wrap up this one and just finish your current thought on it. Last sentence, just to wrap up. Ready? Let's take one step further to the next prompt. Now think about what you just wrote. What do you need to do to get there? What might be 1 or 2 small steps you could take to move in that direction? Something that feels doable, and if it helps, you can also think about when might you take that step. You can begin whenever you're ready. Okay, now let's start to wrap up this one and just finish your current thought. And whenever you're ready, let's move on to our last one. Who are some people you can reach out when things start to feel challenging? And what makes them someone you'd feel comfortable turning to? It could be a friend, a family member, mentor, or even a professional, whatever feels right for you. And you might also reflect on what they could offer, whether that's listening, support, perspectives, or just their presence. And start whenever you're ready. Or to slowly wrap up this one, our last prompt. Finish your last thought. And whenever you're ready, let's spend some time together to take a look at what we just wrote for all of the 4 questions, 4 reflection prompts. Just read through what you wrote. You can also circle and highlight anything that really stood out to you while you were reflecting, while you were writing. Anything you found surprising from this reflection? Anything I really wanted to take away from today? This exercise. Please spend some time to see anything you'd like to take away. Okay, now let's slowly come back to the webinar, to the room you're in. Just sense your screen, maybe. Lights are showing. And before we fully close our webinar, I also want to invite us to gently shift out of our thinking again and back into our body. Just take the moment to notice, again, your heart rate, your breathing pace right now after the reflection. What is your body responding to the activity we just did? Or your body part is feeling? Is it still tense? Or is it more relaxed? Make sure you breathe in right now and release the tension if there is, while you gently breathe out. Really notice the temperature in the room and how it's making your body feel. And if it feels okay, let's take one last slow breath in and slowly let it out through your mouth. Just noticing, without judging, what your body feels, if it feels the same or a little different from where we started. All right, so to conclude our webinar today, Odysseus' journey wasn't just about getting home, it was about what he learned along the way. And this stage of life of ours also can feel uncertain or disorienting, but it's also a period where people are gathering experiences, learning about themselves, and gradually shaping their direction, rather than figuring everything out all at once. So just be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Maybe love the questions now, perhaps you'll then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. And really, to remember, pause, breathe, start with something small, and notice what's bringing you energy, clarity, and a sense of peace. And if you're in a place where things still feel unclear or overwhelming, we're always here to connect. Thanks everyone for being here today. I hope you can carry whatever stood out to you today with you as you move through the rest of your day. And thank you for your time and patience and also showing up for yourself in this space today.